Have you ever had a patient in the hospital and needed to visit him or her and couldn't because of the distance to the hospital? Were you forced to stay in a hotel, but you really couldn't afford it? Tonight's subject is the JW House, a place for families to stay when they have patients hospitalized. Stay tuned.
Welcome to The Better Part, a program that encompasses a diverse spectrum of topics important to our community, which we hope will both inform and entertain you. We invite you to sit back and enjoy the program.
We have two guests tonight. One is Jill Mitch, Executive Director of the JW House. Welcome, Jill.
Thank you for having me.
Jill. The second guest is Anne Marie Kneppen, JW's mom and a community volunteer. Welcome, Anne Marie.
Thank you.
Jill, would you please tell our audience what the JW House is?
The JW House is a hospitality house located on the grounds of the Kaiser Santa Clara Medical Center. And it's a house for families to stay while their loved ones are receiving treatment at local hospitals. We serve families in two ways. We have 4 apartments where families can spend the night and be steps away from their loved ones. And we also have a day use room. So if you're a local family or we're unable to place you in the house, you can come to JW House for day use.
That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Anna Marie, would you please tell us about JW and how this project came to fruition?
I'd love to. JW is our oldest son. He's the oldest of 4. And I think I have to move back to Belgium, where we lived originally. When he was 4, he was diagnosed with leukemia. And so we went through all the chemo treatments, radiation. And it's there that it all started, I think. He wanted to give back. You know, nurses, doctors, everybody was being so nice to him, was trying to help him getting better. And afterwards, when we had, for instance, a party for his first communion or something, he would never ask for presents, but he wanted money. Money he wanted to give to his oncologist in Belgium to make children get better, feel happier, families, you name it. And so this went on, and when he was 10, we moved to the United States. And for instance, our party before we moved in Belgium, again, he asked for money that went to his oncologist in Belgium. But by then he was declared cured. He was doing fine. And he was thriving, doing well, but unfortunately when he turned 14, he got sick again. And this time it was a brain tumor. And he got very close with his oncologist here, Dr. Alan Wong. And they became so close, they became real friends. Dr. Wong, ever since, is a family friend of our family, actually. And again, JW wanted to give back. And so they started talking about what could we do, because it's always easier to ask people for money if people know what they are giving for, right? And so they came up with this dream, a house. You know, JW saw how difficult it can be when a family has to cope with a situation like this. We had 3 other children, and that's not so easy. We have been in the hospital in Sacramento, in Oakland, and my husband was trying to keep the family moving on at home, and I was at the hospital with him. We had to bring in babysitters actually when the kids visited their brother in the hospital, because they could only stay there for a couple of minutes. He was usually in intensive care in those cities. And there was no place to be together as a family and maybe just share a meal or play a game or do something. Also for me, I was with him and I wanted to be with him in the room. But sometimes you want to escape. There's another visitor there, and that can give you time to take a shower or just to be by yourself, out of the noise of the hospital, of all the machines and stuff. And this is how it all started. We thought it was a way too big dream, not possible, but friends gathered, and money came in originally from Belgium, friends who donated to a party that never could happen because we couldn't go to Belgium at that time, but money came in. And so in 2004 we had the first $10,000 from Belgium, and he was so proud. We made a big check, and the nurses were there, and the oncologists, and so we gave the first check. A couple of weeks later we had a second check of $5,000. So here Dr. Wong was with $15,000, and he walked up to Kaiser, and yeah, we started talking, and for some odd reason, I think, Kaiser donated land.
Wow, that's
And
impressive.
yeah,
What a boy you had. Was he in the hospital all this time since he was 14?
no, at first we were not that much at the hospital, but then he had surgery that was inpatient, of course. Most of his chemo was outpatient, radiation was outpatient, but we were still at the hospital a lot, of course, for all these things. But then starting from 2004 until he died in August 2005, we were a lot at the hospital, a lot.
Jill, where's this house actually located?
So it's located on the grounds of the Kaiser Santa Clara at Lawrence and Homestead Road in
How
Santa
did that
Clara.
happen?
JW was receiving treatment at the old Kaiser facility in Santa Clara, and they were building the new facility, and they found a spot of land to lease to us at a very affordable rate.
So Kaiser donated the land.
That is correct.
Yeah.
And where did you get all the rest of the donations? I mean, a house like that is not.
It's very interesting. The first money that came in was, I call it sweet money. It was from children who had a birthday party and donated money, or we had these blue bracelets that we sold for $2, and they were sold at Starbucks and other places. And then of course we had a few bigger donations, but a lot came from people like you and I, actually. It's a community that built a house. That's how you can...
It must have. I mean, it's just such an impressive house. How is it funded now?
Right now, we are really still funded by individuals. I would say about 35% of our income comes from individual donations, and then the other 25% comes from businesses, corporations, 20% from grants, and then the rest is events. We do charge a minimal fee for the room, so I would say 10% is room rents.
What kind of fee for the room?
We charge $30 a night for families to stay, and
No
day
matter
use
how-
is completely
No matter
free.
how many people in the family,
Yes.
whether there's 5, it's still only $30 a
That
night.
is correct. We have the 4 apartments, and 2 of the apartments can sleep up to 5 people, and 2 can sleep up to 4.
Who's eligible to stay in the house?
The priority for stay goes to families of pediatric patients coming from more than 30 miles away. And if there's availability, we'll then look at if there's a need for families of adults to stay there. Rarely do we have local families stay overnight, but there's been cases where a family doesn't have a car or they're unable to afford a local hotel. And day use is for everybody.
How much for the day use do you charge?
Day use is free.
Day use is free. So I could come sit over there for an hour while my husband's in the hospital.
Exactly, and it's a lovely facility to do that.
Well, I had the privilege and pleasure of photographing JW House, and we had, what's her name, April?
April, yes.
April gave us a tour of the house. So let's take a look at that now.
You have a beautiful family. Holly told me that you were coming over.
Our living room and family room area provide our guests with a very homey feeling. They can sit in front of the fireplace, on a cold winter day, enjoying a book from our library that we have in the family room, and the children can be playing with any of our toys that have been donated by our generous, very generous community. The fireplace, by the way, was donated by the volunteers at Kaiser Hospital. And all the beautiful stonework that you see here in the house all the stone was donated. And then when the workers found out what they were building this house for, they donated their time in building it. And this is a kitchen that we all dream of having in our own homes. Families can enjoy cooking in here if they'd like, and our volunteers just love doing a lot of the baking and preparation of dinners here in this gorgeous kitchen. We have it stocked with just about every kind of kitchen appliance that you would need. We got famous for our brownies here at JW House, and our volunteers bake at least one batch of brownies every single day. Your own home, you've got a taste for something but don't know what it is, our guests can come to the pantry, take a look at what we have. Most of this is donated by generous folks from our community, and they can have a cup of soup, or if they feel like making something more substantial, we have all the makings for cookies, brownies, or if they're cereal lovers, we have quite a variety of cereals and oatmeal for breakfast. And this, of course, is at no cost to our guests because of our generous community. Down to a meal together, or maybe working on the jigsaw puzzle that we always have out. And the nice open feel of JW House allows for families to be enjoying the living room area, reading, maybe the adults are reading a book and the children are playing on the Wii that was donated to us. We also have an ottoman filled with family games. It's a place where families can do just the ordinary things that they would do in their own home. And we hope that they do see JW House as their home away from home while they're staying with us. This is our day use room, and this room can be used throughout the day by guests that are not staying overnight with us, but still need a place to come and relax or perhaps take a shower. Often our pediatric families make use of this room because they like to stay at bedside with their little one. So they come here, and our chair that you see in the room becomes a bed. It just folds out. We make it up with sheets and blankets and pillows. So it's an inviting place for people to come and relax before going back over to the hospital. We also have a full bathroom in here where people can take a shower, and we provide all of the towels and soaps and such that they would need. And this view is looking down the hallway where our private residences are. We have 4 apartments here at JW House, 2 studio apartments that can sleep up to 4 people, and 2 larger family suites that have a separate bedroom, and 5 people can stay in each of those rooms. At the end of the hall, you can see the beautiful quilt that was a gift to us from a family friend of JW's family. There's a very cute story that goes along with the quilt. Anne Marie, JW's mom, always puts a picture of our logo, which is the quilt, at the bottom of her emails. And back in 2004, she sent an email off to Belgium, and the woman opening the email looked at the picture, and it was all pixelated around the edges. It was all jagged around the edges, as you can see on the quilt. Well, she just happened to be a quilter, and she took that bad picture and used it as a template for this beautiful piece of art that she presented to us in 2005. And every single bit of that is hand sewn. It's made of tiny little squares, all sewn together by hand, and of course the quilting done by hand as well. The family room is a very cheerful place for the children to play, with it being decorated as a sunflower field and with butterflies and bees. Very cheerful for our families. And up above me is JW's motto here at JW House. JW's motto was never, ever give up.
That was quite a tour she gave us. What if a family is really having a terrible financial hardship? Do you make some kind of an allowance for it?
Oh, definitely. We get our referrals from social workers at local hospitals, and actually on the referral form there's a box that they check if the family is unable to pay the $30 a night fee. So we will have conversation with the family and ask them what is something that you can afford to pay, or we'll waive the fee completely. In 2010, we waived or reduced fees for 47% of our families.
Wow.
Yeah, we don't want to create any more stress for them. They are really going through a lot of stress.
And maybe something important too, so that's the fee for the room, but people are also invited for dinner, lunch, breakfast, and we don't charge for those meals.
Wow, that's wonderful. I remember when we were visiting there that there was all kinds of cookies and brownies sitting out on the table. That's for anybody, anytime, to help themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we have people donating food, and we have volunteers coming in and cooking or baking. Our volunteers love to bake.
Yes.
I also know somebody donates these flowers.
Yes, Trader Joe's gives us the flowers that they can't sell at the end of the week. So each Monday, one of our volunteers goes and picks up the flowers. And sometimes we can have up to 20 bouquets of fresh flowers in the house.
Oh, how neat.
Yeah, it's really
That was
great.
nice of you to bring these. These are lovely. Do guests have any responsibilities at the house? In other words, is there anything they have to do, like their laundry or something like that?
Really, the way JW House is we ask people to treat the house as though they were at home. So clean up after themselves in the kitchen. They are responsible for their own laundry. However, we do have weekly housekeeping, so they'll come in every 5 days, do a refresh of the room, and change the sheets, so the guests don't have to do their own linens.
That's good. Tell us about the volunteers. You volunteer there.
I am a volunteer every Friday morning. And what do we do?
What don't you do?
How many volunteers do you have?
We have, I think we're up to 47 right now. So we have 3 shifts for volunteers each day. And we have volunteers from 8:30 to 12:30, 12:30 to 4:30, 4:30 to 8:30. And then we also have volunteers on the weekends until 7 o'clock.
Wow. What hours is the house available for the guests?
Day use hours are 9:30 a.m. to 7 p.m.
What about the families?
For the families staying there, they can come and go as they please.
Anytime?
Anytime. If they do have guests visiting the house, we just ask that the guests don't stay past 10 p.m.
That's unbelievable. It's just marvelous. How long has the house now been in operation?
We had our first guests in
2008, we opened.
Yes.
Actually, Alexander, our youngest, when he had his 8th birthday in 2008, that's November 30th, our family were the first guests. We were a tryout. And so after that December, then probably 2008.
Wow. You already said that there was meals provided.
Yes.
3 times a day.
Well, we have food for breakfast and lunch there, so guests can prepare their own breakfast and lunch. And we've had a lot of donations from businesses. Starbucks is donating pastries now. Panera Bread is donating bread. And then we have had just community groups, Girl Scout troops or schools do kind of canned food drives for us. So our cupboards are completely stocked. And then dinners we provide to the guests, and we serve it family style.
In other words, the volunteers cook the dinner?
It depends. We've had quite a few restaurants step up and donate full meals to the house. So
And also groups come in.
yes.
For instance, we have Girl Scouts or how do you call them, like Optimist Club and those kind of things. And families, like the girls and I are going to cook in a little while.
How has your occupancy been? Are you full all the time, or a certain percentage of the time?
In 2010, we were at 95% occupancy,
Which is full.
which is full. The rare cases where there is an empty room, and maybe it's because a family just found out that the patient was discharged and it was 4 o'clock, so we didn't have enough time for housekeeping to come in and clean the room and get another family in the room.
Would you share some of the experiences of your families, such as the Van Hofwagen?
The Van Hofwagen family, they stayed at JW House last spring, and they had twins who were born premature, and they were coming from the peninsula, and we were able to place them in the house because we do have the pediatric priority. And it was really special for them because as a new mom, she got to be steps away from her babies, but still come back to JW House and take a shower, nap, have a meal. Her parents came as well because our rooms are so big that we can sleep a family of up to 5. And it's just really a great place for family to come together in really difficult times and try and have some normalcy.
I think that's important what Jill says, that feel of only being steps away. I remember that vividly from our time. You know, in a way you want to escape the hospital, but you're scared that something is going to happen. And if you're only steps away, you're there right away when they call you. Whereas in our situation, we live in San Jose, but even going home from Santa Clara to San Jose and coming back takes an hour.
Sure.
And you're not back right away. So I think that's very important, that closeness.
Do you have a waiting list? I mean, is there a lot of people you have to turn down?
Well, in 2010, we served 193 families, and we turned away, I think it was 160 families. So the need is definitely there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So we're happy, we're not happy to turn them away, but we're happy that we have the day use, because at least we can give them something. No bed sometimes, but a house during daytime.
Are there many children that are guests?
It really depends. Each day is so different at JW House because of the families who are there. Sometimes we might have the siblings of the children who are in the hospital, or if we have a family of an adult patient in the house, we might have their grandchildren there. So it could be weeks before we see a child, or we could have 10 children there.
A house full, yeah, or a yard full of kids.
Yeah. It's really fun though when we have kids in the house. It just
I was
takes
lucky
on a
to be
life.
invited to the volunteer lunch by one of your volunteers. And that day, there was some older children, you know, and they were doing their thing or playing or whatever. While this luncheon was going on out in the yard, you know, it was fantastic. I really thought that was great.
Yeah, I think what's really special about JW House is it's for all ages. We've had situations where there was an emergency in the hospital and it was all of a sudden, so the whole family comes to the hospital and waiting rooms can get pretty cramped. So the social worker calls us up and they'd say, you know, we have a family, there's about 20 of them, can they come to JW House for day use? And we say, definitely, send them over, we'll get lunch ready. And we might have grandma who's in her 90s and a toddler who's 2, and it's just the family's together.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, when, especially at nights, but it happens during daytime too, when you come and see how these different families interact, how kids immediately find each other, how it's special. You have to be there to really feel you were there. You got a real feel. You can talk about it, but that's not the same, I think.
Is there, I think you have already covered this, is there an age limit or priorities of the patients? In other words, you have a patient who's a teenager and you have a patient who's 85. Does the patient, if there's a family with a patient of the teenager, get priority over the older person?
For the most part, yes. There isn't really an exact formula of how we place families in the house, but pediatrics is 18 and under. So if it's a pediatric patient where the family's coming from Modesto or Merced, that you can't expect a family to make that commute back and forth and pay for a hotel room. Those hotel fees can get expensive, and gas and food. So that's really what we're looking at.
Yeah, I guess.
And what happens a lot in families with a kid that is sick, one of the two parents, usually the mom, has to quit her job. So money is a big issue for a lot of people.
I guess. Yeah. I was thinking, I happened to make a phone call to some friends, and she happened to be in the old Kaiser Hospital, answered the phone, and her husband had just had a heart thing, and they were taking him down to another hospital. And I thought, oh, well, I knew she lived down, she was RV down in Monterey. So I said, come and stay at our house, which she did, and we saw her very little because she spent the rest, the whole days at the hospital. Mm-hmm. Does a patient at Kaiser Hospital have priority over, say, a patient from O'Connor?
No, we are a separate nonprofit from Kaiser, so we serve all hospitals in the Bay Area. It's just more convenient because we're on the grounds of Kaiser for families, because they are steps away.
Mm-hmm.
But all the, say, social workers in the different hospitals know about you and can refer families to you.
We are working on our outreach more to other hospitals. I think it's a little challenging with the 4 apartments. Mm-hmm. So we're trying to encourage day use for those families. But that's definitely in the future plans for JW House.
I saw JW's motto over the doorway in, what's that, the kids' room or the library? Mm-hmm. Kids' room. And what is it?
Never ever give up. He never ever gave up.
He never ever did.
No, he knew that he was going to die, but that didn't stop him from living and from pursuing his dream. So we never ever give up.
That was marvelous. Thank you. Thank you both for coming today and telling us about the JW House and telling us about JW.
Thank you for having us.
No, thank you very much for having us.